This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, June 16th, 2024. Straight ahead today, we talked to Congresswoman Jahana Hayes about Washington, Connecticut re-election, and a rematch. Also, one of Connecticut's biggest taxpayers, known for cigarettes, is moving toward a smokeless future. Marian Salzman of Philip Morris International is with us. Juneteenth is this week. So how will many black businesses celebrate? Anne-Marie Knight of the Black Business Alliance joins me. And Dan Hurley chooses Connecticut over California. Why he said no to the Lakers and yes to going for a three-peat with his Huskies. First up, the lead. Connecticut's hottest race this year will once again be the 5th congressional district. It is a rematch between Congresswoman Jahana Hayes, a Democrat, and former state Senator George Logan, a Republican. Today we talk with the two-term representative about her career and the race ahead. And Congresswoman Hayes, thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I was looking at the list of all the members of Congress, and you're about midway through in seniority right now.
I am.
Yes, I mean,
yes.
It flies by, doesn't it?
It flies.
So if you were to be reelected, you'd probably climb up a little bit more. Does
yes.
it get easier over time?
No. I mean, it's hard work, and the expectations just are more demanding, but you also have a heightened sense of responsibility to your constituents. You want to see the work that you started go all the way through to the end. And as you are spread into more areas, it becomes more work. I mean, when we were in the majority, I was the subcommittee chair of nutrition, and I would pursue that position again, which is a lot of work, but it's an area that is incredibly important to me.
Congress is criticized often for the lack of action in many cases, and sometimes it goes up to the upper leadership. You're working for a new speaker since last time we spoke, Speaker Mike Johnson. I had one of your colleagues in here recently, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, and she called it the worst Congress she's ever been a part of. Do you agree?
Well, she's got a lot more points of reference than I do.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And it's interesting because I've had a very different experience. People always talk about the glacial pace that Congress works at, but I was a part of Congress that delivered transformational legislation. We made efforts to invest in public education, the likes of which we hadn't seen in 50 years, and I was a part of that. Many of the programs, payroll protection, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, the infrastructure bill, were things that we were able to deliver.
Looking back at your career in Congress, what do you think your biggest accomplishment has been so far?
Well, I mean, I've passed 8 pieces of legislation under 2 different administrations, which is just incredible. But I think that during the pandemic, having a teacher as part of these conversations to make sure that we were investing in public education, that we were feeding children who would be out of school, that we were having very different conversations about where those investments would be. In Connecticut, we have a tremendous delegation, but I bring a very different perspective. My background is different. The way that I came into this space is different, and I think that that is critical and it's important as we are moving forward. I think that I can say with fidelity today that my mission of going to Congress and leaving no one behind, of making sure that I was legislating for all these people who never felt like they were a part of the conversation in a way that was measured and tempered. I think I've continued to do that, and I'm very proud of that.
I want to talk about 2 issues that voters always tell me about. They say the number one thing to them are reproductive rights. A lot of women will tell me that they're very concerned about the future of those rights. And another issue is immigration, what to do at the border. Let's begin with women's rights and reproductive rights.
Well, that's a very important issue, and we've seen every time it's on the ballot, people come out and vote in support of that issue. Since the fall of Roe, 1 in 3 women don't have access to abortion care, if you will. 21 states have passed laws to restrict or completely eliminate access to abortion. I don't think that I should tell someone to get an abortion, but I also don't think it's my decision if it's a choice between a woman and her doctor. What we saw in the Senate last week was a vote that failed on the right to even contraception. So this has been chipping away around the edges at a woman's right to choose. That's something very important to me. I've always been someone who has supported a woman's right to choose. This was an issue in my last election. My opponent said he would not vote to codify Roe. That's something that I absolutely would vote to make it law so that women don't have to keep relitigating this. 50 years I thought this was settled, and now here we are back again talking about a woman's right not only to reproductive freedom, access to abortion, but even to contraception. And there's two really big cases that the Supreme Court is going to consider very soon, access to mifepristone and emergency care for women in labor. These are two things that I don't think policymakers should be deciding. Women and their doctors should be deciding these things.
And I want to talk about deportations a little bit because former President Trump, of course, is running for president again, says that if he's elected, there'll be mass deportations. And you and I know people in your district who have faced deportation, are still here in, in the state. What do you think should be done to make the process easier? There's a crisis at the border. People are coming across.
We absolutely have a crisis at our border. I mean, I see the same things that people see every day. The challenge is that most people are following our system. The backlog of cases, I've had people come to my office for help to try to get a court case who have been reporting every year for over 25 years, just waiting to get a court case. So we need, more judges, more agents to process these cases. We need to resolve them quickly so that if someone is here and they shouldn't be here, they can be sent back to their country of origin. Those were many of the things that were negotiated in the bipartisan bill that Chris Murphy negotiated to say this isn't everything, but we have to at least start voting to address these things. We need to make sure that visas are processed quickly. I hear from so many different employers in this district that they could use, they have many workers who show up just for the season or just for a few months out of the year, but the paperwork, the process takes so long. So there's many things that we can do. We're not going to solve immigration with one vote, but if we're not even taking a vote, if we're not doing anything.
Let's talk a little bit about your opponent, same one as last year. It was a bitter race last time. After he conceded 2 years ago, did you have any relationship with him afterwards in terms of any conversations? Because sometimes the losing opponent will reach out and say, what can I do to help?
I've never had any conversation with George Logan. I don't know him like that. For all accounts, people tell me he's a nice guy, but I think we differ in that George Logan wants to be an elected official. He's ran in 2016, in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, and now in 2024. Moved to this district to run for Congress. So we approach the space from very different places. I ran for Congress right from the classroom, right from the public school system, because I want to help people. I want to be the Congresswoman that I needed for someone to be for me. He says that on a lot of issues we stand, we're not dissimilar, but I'm not really sure where he stands on so many issues. He refuses to say where he stands on the top of the ticket. You have to have an opinion about the president if you're running for a federal office. You have to have an opinion about things like gun violence if you're running for office, especially in this district. And I think that the last cycle and even this cycle, he skirted those issues time and time again. And I live in this district. As someone who lives here, it's very important to me to know where people stand on these issues. But again, I came to this space out of the blue. People can run for office. People can put their best ideas on the table and give constituents something to vote for. But I haven't had the opportunity to get to know who George Logan is because he's been incredibly evasive on many of these issues. The
margin of error was narrow, only a few thousand votes. So if every vote matters, I know it sounds cliche, but if you're knocking on a door in Waterbury this summer, say, I want your vote, and they say, well, I voted for Logan this time, maybe I want to change, what do you say to that person to persuade them?
Well, couple things. First of all, people continue to bring up the margin of error, and it was close, but I remind you that George Logan has never been anyone's overwhelming choice. He won by 800 votes in his first election, 65 in the second, and then lost 2 times.
What's the quick message or the slogan to re-elect Jahana Hayes?
Re-elect Jahana Hayes. I'm still that same girl. I'm still that teacher that you sent to Congress from Waterbury. I am still committed to leaving no one behind. There's just all of these communities that are just under attack. We see the LGBTQ community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, the Black community, all of these people who are just frustrated with government and how it operates and feels like this doesn't affect me or my family. I'm not included. I want all of those people to know that I envision an America where everyone is included, where the things that you want for your children are addressed, and also the things for other people's children. A country where we're not looking at if if someone else is helped, it's taking away from me, because that's not who we are. You know, I want to look out for my neighbors, and I want a country where that is the norm.
Congresswoman Jahana Hayes, we appreciate you coming on, and we will see you this summer and perhaps in the fall in debates.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It's going to be a long summer.
All right. Thank you. When we come back, how does the Connecticut tobacco giant survive as fewer and fewer people smoke?